Hey everyone, it's Bill T, and welcome to Let's Talk Dubs, the premier air-cooled VW podcast. What was a car for you that when you were coming up, like you were like, oh, that's my car, man, like that's the one? What car stands out if you go back into history, like when you were just a scrub coming up? What car stands out that you always chased in your mind?
Tom Karsten, his green and yellow and white oval, on BRMs. That to me, the first time I saw that car, I was like, "Oh my god!"
Really?
Oh yeah.
It's just was it the level of detail he had, or
yeah,
what?
oh yeah, the level of detail, the colors that he used, and just how he displayed it. And,
Yeah, he went and a throwback to Tom. Tom passed away a few years back, but Tom was. He was a character without question. A lot of people had mixed feelings about him, but one thing Tom did that I think we can give credit to Tom for is Tom actually, he was kind of from the Motorama type days where like when he showed up at a show, it was wheels off, ropes around the car, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it made it fun. He's going to be there with the car, and he put some time and effort into thinking about the display, the setup, all that kind of stuff. So
absolutely. Yeah.
But it's interesting how stuff like that, it things like that motivate us. And it's like, it helps us to kind of formulate visions of what we want to see and how we would change something, how we tweak something a little different. So, I kind of love that thing to do that. Now, let me ask this question. There's always the debate back and forth. And I take it back to this, one of my favorite analogies that people say in kind of like built or bought or whatever the case is. And so you get like, when you're looking at the motorcycle scene, it's like you've got Jesse James versus OCC, and OCC is whatever. And Jesse James forges his own steel. You know what I mean? Like, to what point what's your take? Now you obviously do this for a living. Do you have a decked out, finished, built car?
For myself?
For yourself?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, it's coming.
But I mean, it's one of those back, like the mechanic whose car doesn't run. Like you're that guy, like the guy who builds a show cars doesn't have the time to build his own show car. So,
right.
But what do you think in the school of like build it versus buy it? What's your thought process? Because, I think there's a lot of people that kind of look at people that have like Randy Gates, right? Who had you build his car, or myself, or whoever that had you build the car, have a heavy hand in building it.
Yeah.
I think without the people that are there to support shops like you, the envelope can't be pushed.
Right.
And in the same respect, there's some to be said for doing it yourself. So kind of because you're caught in the middle, because you're the guy that makes a living off the people that are paying you to do it. But what's your personal opinion on bought versus built, and what's your thoughts on that?
Whew, man, I don't know. I never really thought about that. Thinking about it, me personally, buying something, I understand it. If for one, it's going to cost you way less to buy it already done. And then to build it, I mean, there's a sense of pride that goes into that,
right?
And having it built and having it designed. So, I'm the type of guy that I would rather build it.
Right.
But that being said, I can't do everything on these cars. I need outside sources to help me, fabrication, interior, motor work.
You don't
so there's stuff
you don't forge your own steel?
I don't forge my own steel.
But and it's funny because some shops, there's some shops that they say, oh, that guy just assembles cars or whatever. But the reality is, they have that saying that you could be jack of all trades but master of none, and like you can do a little bit of everything and you do it kind of okay. But I think it's a little smarter if you, like an engine guy, focuses on the engine, because a paint guy does paint and body, and then the detail level of assembling the car. I mean, the physical. This is the part that I explain to people sometimes. The physical aspect of building a car, anyone can do. Now, whether you're going to have the patience, the organization, and the temperament to do it right is what makes the difference. You know what I mean? So I think I'm a guy that first thing I'll do is take a back seat and be like, on my carbon cab project, when we did that, I said, look, I'm going to build this thing myself. I'm going to build, I had this chip on my shoulder that I had some street cred to prove, and then I got the car back from you from paint. And then it sat in my garage for 6-8 months and, waiting for me to have 15 minutes to turn a wrench here or do this or do that. And so,
right.
To where I got a lot of the suspension and rough stuff put together. And then I just finally had to cry uncle and take it to my brother's shop and have George kind of finish off the car for me, because you come to that personal time money equation. And then sometimes, how soon do you want to experience that? How soon do you want to be driving that car? So when you see the cars that you've built, when you see each car, do you have like a special thought, like you see a car and you've got a certain emotional connection to each car, like you love them, you miss them, you hate them, like every time you see a different car, does it invoke different emotions out of you?
Oh yeah.
So
yes, yeah, absolutely.
so
absolutely, yeah.
So have you ever, so how often per week, I was going to ask, did you ever, but I think the new question is, how often per week do you think that's it? I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel. I can't get this headlight ring to sit right, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. But with age, I've learned just to set it down and walk away from it and come back to it. And it's always better the next day. But, oh yeah, you fight from day one till the last day that car is delivered. You're fighting that car.
Yeah.
It's a never ending battle.
How far is like the worst project you got that you were just like, we should just start with something else, but because of someone's sentimental connection, you just had to continue with the project? Have you had that experience?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We did a 56, 356, and there was nothing left of this car. And it was like, just uncle, I'm crying uncle every week.
Yeah. It was pretty rotten car.
Yeah. And you know what else too was, Javier's 23 window bus. That thing was bad.
Yeah.
We basically had to put a whole new frame under that thing when it was all said and done. So.
Yeah, well, they have those guys up in Canada that build buses off like the door handle metal, and then they'll build a whole barn door ragtop off that.
You're right.
That's some serious commitment and a pretty thick wallet, because I mean all that stuff equates to is just lots of time and money.
Yeah. Time and money. And so when it's that bad and you have to do it and you're billing the customer every week, it's rough.
So what is something that you really, of the building the car aspect, what's something you don't like? What's something you prefer not to do, no matter what, no matter how bad you had to do it, whether it's engine, wiring, whatever, rubber, glass, upholstery? What's something you want to have the least to do with?
Painting.
Painting the car, the thing that you do the most.
I hate it, dude.
Really?
Yeah. It's mental and physical, and it's at the drop of a hat, anything can go wrong, and it usually does. So it's a battle. That
brings me to my next question. So my next question is, in respect to the technology changes in paint over the past 10, 15 years, has it helped or hurt you in your business based on chemical reactions and funky things with temperature and preparation surfaces, stuff like that?
It's hurt. I mean, you can, one day you'll be painting something fine, and the next day you're doing the same thing, and it reacts another way, and you're just like, oh my God. Yeah. And then you're basically sanding that all off and starting over again. So, just how the chemicals, how they dry, how fast they dry, how slow they dry.
So so what you're saying is you can use the same paint the very next day and get a complete different reaction out of it.
Complete different reaction. Yeah. It's its own animal for sure.
Yeah. So the paint, so the paint, it's like, as opposed to, let's say in the old days, was it just you loaded up that single stage, went in there and just started bombing it, and it came out nice and smooth? Yeah. Like it was just lay a couple more coats on so you could just do a little more sanding, or what?
Yeah, it seems like that. With the new products and EPA cracking down everybody, I think that has a lot to do with it too. Yeah. Just how the chemicals react, and everybody's up in arms about being on point with everything.
Yeah. So what is your absolute, like, what's your Zen space when you're working on a car? Like, what do you really get into? Like, what's your favorite thing to do?
Assembling them when I detail them. Yeah. When I get to start to play with the colors, the color combinations, and that's when I want to be left alone and kind of, put every little piece in its place.
Yeah. And so I know one of the things that you did was one of the things that you noticed that we kind of brought from one car to the next with on Randy's car was the shift light and the shift light and the line lock light off the dash. We kind of did that on my Gia because it was funny. It was like this little tiny thing that you probably had the least amount of time in doing, just like, oh, let's go with this cool little amount.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, dude, I want that in my car. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it just looked so cool. So little touches like that. Do you find yourself, I mean, I know that you do a lot of those on the cars. Do you find yourself a little frustrated sometimes when people don't notice the little changes that you make? Or what's your feeling like when you modify a car and people don't pick up on the modification until you point it out to them? What's your take on that?
I really don't have a take. I don't expect people to pick up on, my vision and stuff like that. It's usually, it's like a movie when you watch it 10 times and then you go back and you catch, the lines and stuff.
Right.
You usually laughing your ass off on the 10th. You're like, oh, I didn't catch that. That's usually what happens. So
yeah.
I kind of like that, to be honest with you. So, because it keeps people, oh man, I didn't see that. And I didn't, so there's, these cars, every part is detailed that goes on to these cars. So there's a lot to look at. And I think for a person that just sees it at a show, I think to some people it's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, especially at the shows, how crazy the shows are. You don't really get the time to sit. It's almost like the cars if they were sitting in a museum atmosphere and you could actually sit there for 30 minutes just eyeballing the car, every section of it, because it's like every turn you take, you see something else,
Absolutely, yeah. And that's where, seeing Troy Trepanier's cars, for me, and I just study them. I'll stay at one particular car for probably an hour to 2 hours if I'm at a show and I really like it. Just studying it and learning new things, and it's and taking that over to the Volkswagens.
So you mentioned earlier that you are possibly building a car for yourself.
Yeah.
So you've got that planned out in the near future to kind of get a car for yourself?
Yeah. Once I get caught up with everybody's projects, and then I think I'll kind of.
Yes. But I mean, but here's kind of it's kind of a when you were starting to do paint and detail work, you kind of everybody starts. I think I don't know anybody that starts a business says I want to get somewhere around the middle. Everybody wants to kind of be at the top of their game. Mm-hmm. And you've definitely built a reputation for your shop where there's people that are constantly kind of calling you and tracking you down and trying to get you to steal your ear for, an hour on the phone, yabbing about, getting their project in to see you. Has there been any drawbacks to that? Like to have your shop builds a reputation and things start to get good. And then there's a bad side to that as well. I mean, like what's the biggest struggle about being busy and people really wanting you to do their work?
I think it's like any business. I think it's just staying on top of it, staying on top of the invoicing, the billing, and and you have to keep in mind at the end of the day, it's a Volkswagen, and not everybody wants to put that kind of money into these cars. So
right.
There's a fine line you have to walk, So, I got some cars where I have to cap it off, and I did a white 63. I think the guy owns it in Vegas.
Yeah.
And, that car's a highly detailed car, but man, that guy had me handcuffed the whole time. So it was, I had to detail it, but I had to stick to that,
right.
that timeline and that budget. And that was very difficult to do.
Because is it because you want to, like, if you get inspired by something by looking at the car, you want to kind of follow down that rabbit hole and kind of take that to the next level and put that effort into it?
I have a tendency of putting way more time and then, into the cars than, I actually get paid for. So I work for free quite a bit, but I love it, so it's a labor of love too.
Well, that's it. They say, show me a man who loves what he does, I'll show you a man who never worked a day in his life. So
that's it right there. Yeah.
If you love it, that's awesome, man. I mean, I know, on a personal note, I know that you're deeply inspired by the cars that you build and you're really passionate about it. So we talked about your shop, what you've been up to, kind of how you got started. Now, what do you see? Like what's the next thing that you see you guys headed for over there at Type 1 Restorations? Like, what are you guys shooting for? What is kind of what your goal is over the next couple of years? Where do you see Type 1 Restorations in 5 years?
It's
more tight knit. Where I want to go with it is more tight knit employees, to cut out, we're still, I think, in a growing phase where we're still going through, you know, learning curves,
Right.
getting the right people for the right job. So I think within the next couple of years, we have personnel lined up that are, they're off doing other things right now, but we plan on, bringing them in a couple of years and just continue the quality. The paints are our number one forte. So, that is a must. That has to get, every car has to get better and better and better and better. And then obviously the detail, we have to go a different direction. We have to keep it subtle, but yet stuff that hasn't been done before. So, keep coming up with new ideas and stuff like that. So
yeah, there needs to be like a constant evolution, little by little, year by year. You look at a Type 1 restoration build, and it's a little bit different and a little bit different every time.
Exactly.
So a customer listen to this, prospective client listening to this, if they're saying, they don't bring you a bug for a basic restoration. Nobody's bringing you like, hey, I just want a single stage paint, basic restoration, not too fancy, just cheap and easy. Like, that's not something that you guys do, right?
We have done it. We're so busy now with the high end stuff. It's,
you have no time. You just can't. You just can't commit the time to it.
Nope.
And so if someone says someone's out there at some place and they see, whatever car it was. Well, let's talk about that for a second. What car do you feel put you on the map?
Well, hands down, Randy's car, obviously, and like I said, after seeing Aaron Broughton's car, for me, I got to give credit to that guy and to that car, because for me, that single-handedly started, a whole another level of thinking and seeing that car done, kind of just kicked me in the ass and just made me like, okay, you can do that,
Right.
And so, obviously Randy's car, and, we get, Gary Stell's cars and, Elliot Vansel's, those guys are, and yourself and, Steve Niendorf, and these cars are just, it actually starts with the customers and you guys, because without you guys, obviously we wouldn't exist, because, you guys start the vision and, come to shops like, mine and, Cookers and Pip and,
And so, and so back to the original question, you're saying Randy Gates' car, once that car was done, all of a sudden you had people kind of, hey man, hey buddy Hale, because I remember it was funny.
Yeah.
He had some stickers. Tell me about the stickers that he had on the car. What are the stickers? What was the story behind the stickers?
Dude, I don't know.
He
just showed up one day.
What did the stickers say?
Who's Buddy Hale?
Right.
Because no one knew who I was, and so the premise behind it, we came out with that car and no one really knew who I was.
Right.
And it was, it was just kind of weird how that whole thing even started with him. He just called me out of the blue one day and said, "This is what I want to do. Let's do it. I'm putting the trust into you." And I was just like, it was a dream come true, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Because I was like, here I have a client that wants to do this. And because at the time I was building an oval for myself to kind of one up on Aaron's car. And that obviously fell,
Right.
way back burner when all these cars started showing up.
Yeah. So do you think, now I'm asking you, kind of switching gears, a little different question, in respect to finding some Volkswagens, do you think that there's still Volkswagens to be found? Just your kind of 2 cents on it. Like, you still think there's Volkswagens out there to be found for cheap?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
And, for you, like, what have you ever worked on any of these new coach built cars, like aluminum bodied coach built stuff?
No, not at the moment. I have Elliot Vansel. He's
threatening to bring you something.
Oh yeah. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be a challenge we're willing to take on.
And that's a whole different type of metal work. I mean, when you're working with an aluminum panel versus, steel panel, I think they react. you all of a sudden start having body man hands like Bill T, which is real heavy on the hammer and too much hammer, not enough finesse.
Oh yeah.
But that ought to be exciting. So is Elliot's car like publicly known about what car he wants to build coming up? Oh, so this is a top secret inside like deal that we might hear about. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I can dig that. So we were talking earlier about getting employees and things to that extent. Do you feel that finding good quality employees is kind of the thing that keeps you from being able to get to the next level?
Yeah.
Or is there a shortage of customers, or is there a bigger shortage of good employees?
I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, you got to be realistic. Like I said, early in our conversation, not everybody wants to put that kind of money into and customize a Volkswagen. That's
right.
What a lot of it's just a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
So it's a very tight knit net of people, because they're just not out there. So I mean, if I maybe would have took off in the hot rod world or trucks, or it could have been different. But to be honest with you, there's no passion there for in those type of builds for me. Right.
So well, shoot, I really appreciate you taking this time to sit down with us. And you've got, so now before we go, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. So social media has made a huge difference in business and getting customers, things like that. Have you experienced any difference in respect to your business and your business profile and how your business is viewed based on social media, Facebook and Instagram, those types of things? Or, yeah. I mean, what do you feel? Do you feel those things are good for the business or kind of a hindrance of business, or what do you think?
Well, I was way late coming into Facebook and Instagram. I'm way behind everybody on that stuff. So, and, Dory, fortunately for me, does all that stuff for me. So, I have absolutely noticed an increase of business phone calls and, just word of mouth from social media. So that aspect, absolutely. I mean, it's helped tremendously,
Yeah. Now there's, when you do things on people's cars, there's some things that you do that are slight modifications that look kind of cool. Have you ever thought about producing a product, an aftermarket product that would kind of give the average guy that works at, works at the Olive Garden or works at a restaurant as a busboy or whatever, has a bug he's wanting to build, and he can go buy a piece of something that gives his car a little bit of Buddy Hale flavor? You ever thought about producing any parts or pieces and things like that you could possibly resell to the market?
I have in the past, but just with the workload I have on my plate, it's just so time consuming. And I kind of go back and forth, because I kind of want to keep it to, like, when I do a car, there's no knockoffs,
right?
And it's done. And to go put a part on a car, for me, I don't know, it just seems kind of generic to me. I would rather just, if somebody wanted something built, and I've done that in the past, somebody comes in, hey, can I build? I would rather build it for that car. That way they have it. And
right.
Pretty much not everybody has access to that kind of stuff.
Nice. Well, buddy, it's been good talking to you. We learned a lot of interesting things about you. I look forward to seeing the stuff that Type 1 Restoration has coming up in the future. And if people want to get at you, what's your Instagram? Your Instagram handle is Type 1 Restoration?
Type 1 Restorations.
So at Type 1 Restorations, you guys have a website?
We're working on it right now. It should be up. It should be type1restorations.com.
And then they can get to you also through Facebook at Type 1 Restorations. Yep. Well, good deal, buddy. I appreciate you sitting down with me and giving me some time, man. And I look forward to seeing some shows upcoming in the future.
All right. We'll see you soon, Bill. Thank you.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks again for listening to Let's Talk Dubs. I'd like to thank our guest, Buddy Hale, for coming on. And also, I want to remind you guys to click, like, and subscribe. Go check out our Facebook page at Let's Talk Dubs. Check out our Instagram at Let's Talk Dubs. Also, our YouTube page, which is Let's Talk Dubs, where the video format for these will be up. Make sure you guys click, like, and subscribe. Leave us a review so we can get continued followers, and we'll keep this podcast going. Thanks, guys, and see you next time.
A Volkswagen is a nice station wagon to have around the house.